2 minutes here on some principles that I use when I ask questions, and feel free to steal. These are not mine. These I learned many, many years ago from a guy named John Sawatsky, who has, I think, done probably more than anybody else I know to try to, really put down on paper and to quantify and to really think hard about the principles behind asking a good question. And as strange as this sounds, the first thing you have to do is actually ask a question, as opposed to make a statement. So that's a good place to start. And I've always found that asking a kind of neutral, open-ended question also helps. So I remember interviewing Bob Rae once when he was Premier of Ontario, and I sort of jokingly said to him at the beginning of the interview, "Premier, what do you want the first question to be?" And he said, "How about something like, Premier Rae, explain to us, what exactly is the nature of your genius?" So that's probably not a good question to ask, because as you can tell, it does kind of start from a position of judgment, and I find that the best way to do this is just not start from a position of judgment. So very open-ended, neutral, lean, right? Not a lot of trigger words, not a lot of hyperbole. Simple, single questions. I see people on television do this all the time, where they ask 2 or 3 questions at once, and I imagine that the person on the other end of it, receiving it, is thinking to him or herself, which one of those 3 questions exactly do you want me to answer? So these are just some basic principles that we do, and I think if you employ these methods during the course of the day, it just opens up the recipient to giving a more thoughtful, more interesting, and therefore more discussable answer.
What's a trigger word?
A trigger word. What's a trigger word? A trigger word would be something like, Mr. Flaherty, why are your budgets so brazenly vicious against so many people in this country? Like, vicious is a trigger word. And as soon as he hears that trigger word, he'll get his back up, he'll get very defensive, and suddenly the conversation shuts down in a way. A question like, Mr. Flaherty, this provision of your budget, what exactly were you thinking here? What's the motive behind this section of the budget? So more neutral, shorter questions, lean, none of these trigger words in it, would allow him to kind of sit back, not get defensive, relax, and open up. Good luck today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Steve.